I'm not ready. I'm never ready. Welcome back to Marathon Man, where I'm going through Doctor Who from the very beginning, and you join me at Ian and Barbara's farewell. The Doctor and his companions have been through a lot, and we've seen them fight monsters, we've seen them topple tyrants, and we've seen them incite revolutions, but we haven't really seen them kick back and just have a laugh. We skip over a lot of their relaxation and recreation in the Romans and join them just before Ian and Barbara get sold into slavery. So the opening minutes of the chase are a joy. Yeah, I could do with the glimpses of William Shakespeare and Abraham Lincoln being not quite so long. We know what the time-space visualizer does now, we get it, you can zip through it. But I do enjoy the banter between the crew as they just kick back and watch telly. One of my favourite things about Vicky as a character is that her native time period is never ignored, and if there's an opportunity to remind Ian and Barbara about it, then it's definitely taken. The idea of the Beatles being classical music is a nice gag anyway, but that it riles Ian and Barbara up so much is what makes it work so well. And the same is true when she references being in ancient New York when they tip up at the Empire State Building. Wow, Chris is really enjoying the chase. There is a but coming, I'm afraid. Historically, I did used to enjoy the chase, enough that I would get swept along in the spirit of it and enjoy the ride, but the last time I did a marathon and watched Doctor Who from the very beginning, that was the first time I found the chase really hard going. And that's not to say, there's no guarantee that it would be the same now. I'm going into every story with an open mind, and there was every chance that I'd revert back to just enjoying the fun of it all. But I'm sorry to say, but nah. Besides the opening and the closing episodes, I find very little to enjoy here. The middle 4 episodes feel like the most pointless diversion of the entire show so far. I don't notice it going downhill straight away though, it has to be said. Landing on Iridius, dry is it? It looks like we're in for another run around on an alien planet, this time up against the Daleks once more. But there are clues that we're not going to be getting that. The Daleks' reappearance in the Dalek invasion of Earth is excellent, sinisterly emerging from the Thames. Here, the same trick is pulled as a Dalek emerges from under the sand of the desert, coughing and spluttering like my great-granny Dolly. If that didn't alert you, then the plinky-plonky piano should tell you that this is meant to be another funny one. But is it? As a comedian, and put it in inverted commas if you want, it doesn't change the fact that I get paid for it. As a comedian, a Rochdale crowd out for blood because you're not who they paid to see will teach you one thing, and that is comedy is one of the most subjective things there is. Even the usual peril is treated lightly. Ian and Vicky running from the Maya Beast is peppered with some truly dreadful moments of Ian and Vicky just insulting each other, and it's so out of character that it has to be for a laugh. So, is there a laugh? Well, no. And it strikes me, even this early on in the story, that the Feast of Stephen, the weird knockabout Christmas episode that later in season 3, wouldn't be as out of place here as it is in the Daleks' master plan. The Iridians are the native creatures to Iridius, and they are amphibious creatures because Iridius is named because it's arid and dry, except it never used to be, it was also a once ocean planet. Anyway, they look quite good. Their way of talking and certain mannerisms are much like the Menoptera in the Web Planet, except here, with the Iridians, you can see their eyes, instantly making them more relatable. And I think that if the Web Planet had approached insects the same way that this episode approaches lizards, then I probably would have found the inhabitants of Vortis much more easy to get on with. That is only one aspect of the chase though, and I feel duty bound to point out that, yeah, while the Web Planet did once used to languish in my bottom 5 of all Doctor Who, these days I much prefer it to the chase. And it's a question of internal consistency. It's about halfway through the second episode, The Death of Time, and I have absolutely no idea what that refers to, that I start to notice the wheels falling off. For example, in one scene the Daleks are given some funny business of their own, and in the next they're just coldly murdering Iridians like Daleks of old because they fulfilled their usefulness. And amid its own chaos and madcapery, the chase has no idea what it is. It's all over the place. And that isn't simply because Terry Nation isn't giving us a chance to get bored of staying in one place to them by pulling a Marinus on us. I mean, yeah, it's literally all over the place. And it's clearly attempting to offer the viewer some variety and trying to conjure up a knockabout vibe. I just believe that even within all of that, and taking its madcap nature into account, the tone is still too inconsistent, to the point where I actually find it exhausting. The flitting around, while it's meant to up the pace and variety of the story, instead just becomes tiresome. If we don't spend long enough in one place, then there's no story to be invested in. And with the chase seemingly unsure whether to take the Daleks seriously or not, the pursuit itself is difficult to be gripped by. Are the Daleks almighty embodiments of efficiency and evil, or are they coughing, spluttering, and in one case stammering figures of fun? By the halfway point, the chase just feels like a damp squib. Without a doubt, the hardest going story on this marathon, and the hardest going I've ever found the chase too, and I found it pretty hard going last time. And it's quite easily the Daleks' worst showing in the series up to this point, and I'm including the Space Museum in that. Pointless diversion follows pointless diversion, totally unnecessary trips to the Marie Celeste and a haunted house theme park, and to New York, which, by the way, that episode would be half the length without the tour guide's after every other word. The moment where Vicky gets left behind is a powerful one, though. Given what we know of the TARDIS at this point, she is completely stranded. And given what we know of the Daleks at this point, having to hop onto their ship is hardly salvation, although if their appearance in this story is anything to go by, depending on which way the air conditioning is blowing on that ship, either they're going to exterminate her on sight or slip on a Scaro banana peel. So now let's talk about the robo-double of the Doctor. It's a nice idea on paper, but look, the reveal is appallingly directed and I find very little nice to say about it. Necessary for practical reasons, but astonishingly bungled in the execution. I understand him doubling the robot, but at one point he doubles the actual Doctor. It's not good. Look, this never used to be my all-time least favourite of the first 16 stories, but by God how it's fallen. Without a shadow of a doubt, the least fun I've had on this marathon so far. And then a flash of brilliance at the beginning of the Planet of Decision as Vicky mimics the mechanoid, Stephen gives the story a shot in the arm, and Barbara says hello to a stuffed panda. Of course she does, she's wonderful. Help yourself to a piece of eternity is a wonderful line and gives me pause to think, where the hell was this in those middle 4 episodes? If they'd gone straight from Iridius to Mechanus, this story would be way better. Yeah, it'd only be 3 episodes, but it would be way better. Then, after a very good episode indeed, and God knows I'd been craving one, the story which has infuriated me more than I ever thought it could proceeds to rob me of my favourite character. I'll always have a soft spot for Ian, and I think William Russell has been absolutely magnificent, but Barbara, for me, has been the show's standout character. A lot is made of Ian and Barbara's impact upon the Doctor, but it's worth remembering that at times, Barbara has had to act as Ian's conscience as well. She has been the beating human heart of Doctor Who, and if I'm honest with you, I still miss her now. The Doctor having a bit of a tantrum about them wanting to go home is perfectly understandable. I wouldn't want them to go either. I don't want them to go. But they do go, and the regulars are all on point. I really like how it's Vicky that's the voice of reason and talks the Doctor around. She's a much more mature presence than Susan, and even though I'm bereft at having lost Ian and Barbara, I am still glad that Vicky is around for a little bit longer. Then there's the iffy montage, but to be honest with you, I'm just sulking because they're leaving. I mean, they look so happy to be home that I am happy for them, I guess. But they do leave us with one question, which is how do they explain their absence of 2 years? And as good as the first and last episodes are, this is still the story that good old Ian and Barbara, lovely Barbara, have as their last. And I think they deserve better. So the Doctor loses 2 more. Something that he's still not used to. And will he ever be? There have been some tough spells on this marathon. But 77 episodes in now, and I probably have to say that this might be the first story that I just flat out haven't enjoyed. It's disjointed, it's messy, and it waltzes off with my favourite character. Why should I keep watching? Oh yeah, because Doctor Who weathers change like a hot bath and comes back with one of my all-time favourite stories.
Where have you been, on the moon?
No, but you're getting warm.
It may not have been an exit befitting of these two titanic companions, but that is a corker of a line. As much as I love Peter Purvis, Morton Dill can do one. As can that whole diversion at the top of the Empire State Building. I mean, there's probably a Sleepless in Seattle, Sleepless in Skaro joke somewhere, but to be honest with you, I'd rather watch the Time Meddler than think of it.
No, sir.
So out of 5? Look, I get no pleasure in giving this story a 2, but I also get very little pleasure in watching the story anyway, so I think it kind of balances out. As ever, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It helps more people find the channel and come along for the marathon. And what are your thoughts on The Chase? Do we agree that it's a total mess, or do you get swept along in all the fun it's having? And will you miss Ian and Barbara, or are you a monster? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you back here soon for some time-travelling mischief. And if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button, clang the cloister bell, and see you in Northumbria in 1066.